Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissioners wrapped up their two-day quarterly meeting today in Tallahassee. They passed several new policies and discussed some key issues that will affect our area. But as News 13's Grace Velez tells us, there seems to be a growing lack of public confidence in some of the commission members.
Making moves to reopen Apalachicola oyster beds, identifying distinction for the Florida bass, approving rule revisions for hunt preserves and game farms, and announcing support for the Gulf of America are just a few policies that have kept the state's FWC Commission busy. The February 26th and February 27th Commission meetings had stacked agendas, but there was still time Wednesday to warn the public on what the Commission will and won't allow.
So before I begin my executive director report, I want to just address one issue. It's an important issue to me and us. So recently we received some personal attacks on our commissioners' leadership and credibility and personal associations through phone calls, texts, and social media posts. While we work hard to foster an environment that welcomes a difference of opinions, we will not allow a platform that supports personal attacks towards our staff or our commissioners.
It's seemingly a brutal hypocrisy where FWC claims to stand on this platform of wanting to hear criticism and advice, and then they close today for public comments.
Nearly 10 months ago, a group called Go for Game started a petition to reform the FWC. The group shares the same name for their documentary focusing on the increasing challenge to protect Florida's gopher tortoise species.
People started going en masse to the public meetings and speaking out and then posting what they're doing on social media and directly to their faces saying to the commissioners, this is not okay. And the commissioners don't care because they are not, elected leaders, but other people do. And so I think a big part of it is just that social media has picked up on what's going on and people are no longer in the dark about what's really happening behind the scenes in the FWC.
Fannin says it's all public record. People just need to care enough to look into it. Petition signatures totaled just under 2,000 last month. In the last few weeks, it's almost doubled, totaling nearly 5,000 signatures. Some have attributed the boost to an Instagram account dedicated to bringing exposure to the commissioner's alleged conflict of interest. The Instagram account's anonymous founder explains why they started the account. The statement reads, "I guess I assumed that the people leading our wildlife agency were wildlife experts in some way. Ecologists, land and water conservationists, multi-generational Floridians, something." The user goes on to say, "I assumed they were just as exhausted as I was, probably more so because they were on the front lines of all this." The account gained over 10,000 followers in less than 2 months and encouraged dozens to attend Thursday's meetings to use the public comment portion to express their frustrations.
Yesterday with the meeting that they had, it looked like there were a lot of presentations from organizations, from direct researchers that have done the data, that have done the studies, that have done the field work. And that's great, but I feel like the FWC here, the commissioners here, are more of a middleman.
A last-minute switch moved the public comment portion to Wednesday's meeting due to some commissioners not being able to attend Thursday's meeting. The information on their website was never updated to note the switch. An FWC staff member says they tweeted about the schedule change. They also mentioned it in Wednesday's meeting. However, the change left some constituents even more frustrated.
It's absolutely intentional misinformation. They have a super clear agenda with everything on the agenda and the exact Florida statute that it relates to, both for yesterday and today. It very clearly outlines today as the public hearing for items not on the agenda. It says it's supposed to be limited to no longer than 2 hours, and it tells you when you have to sign up by. If you follow the directions that they put out, then we would have been able to have an area for public speaking.
Gary Lester is the Vice President of Communications for The Villages, a community known as the country's largest single-site residential real estate development. Gary Nicholas is the son of golf legend Jack Nicklaus and was involved in a controversial proposal to build golf courses in a state park. Sonia Rood is the wife of John Rood, the chairman and founder of Vescore Companies. The group of real estate professionals develop multifamily housing communities. Rodney Barretto is the CEO of Barretto Group Incorporated, another real estate development group. 2 commissioners are in the automotive and healthcare line of work.
I think it's really important for our commissioners here in Florida, or at least a handful or a few of them, to have a scientific, educational or professional background, or have an extensive hunting or fishing or, any forestry background at all, not golf course development or, real estate.
Having successful, profitable development companies is by no means wrong, especially with the record-breaking growth Florida continues to see. But when a deal got approved to build a 9-mile toll road through Split Oak Forest in a 6-1 vote, constituents started to look further into who's in charge of making the decisions.
During the last meeting, when they were going to make the final decision as to whether or not it was okay for that toll road to destroy all that habitat, there were 42 people that showed up and spoke at the meeting, and one of them was for the toll road. Every single other person was against it, and they said, okay, thank you for your time, and unanimously passed it.
The risk is the future. I mean, if it's not a sustainable regulations, then it's going to collapse the entire ecosystem. Just removing one small, what seemingly small cog from the machine will cause the whole thing to collapse. And I personally feel like we've seen it collapse over the last several years.
It cannot be stressed enough the public's acknowledgement of the FWC's staff and volunteers' dedication to preserving the state's wildlife.
With the FWC employees, don't take it out on them because they're fighting the same good fight we are, as well as, from backyard conservation and holding on the hope and the whole 9 yards there.
The employees deserve huge credit because the FWC does make a difference in certain ways. But the problem is it's run by people who are not held accountable, who do not care, and who are actively working against conservation, which is insane because it's called the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
In Tallahassee, Grace Velez, News 13, Panhandle Strong.
FWC officials refused our request to talk about the petition, the protesters' accusations, or showcasing commissioners' fieldwork. They sent a statement explaining how the governor appoints commissioners, their terms, and a link to their website. You can read that statement by going to our website, mypanhandle.com.